Hi, in today's video I'm going to show you how to remap your keyboard layout on Wayland. Now if you install GNOME tweaks, what you'll see is you have a section here called additional layout options, and these come with a predefined set of options you can use to swap keys around. For example, on this particular laptop I'm swapping the left alt with left control key. Now the issue is there some key combinations that aren't listed there. So what we can actually do is use XKB settings to change the keyboard layout on Wayland. Now there's some really good articles that I've put a link to in this document here. And basically what this allows you to do is create user-specific keyboard layouts. A lot of the guides that you'll find online for changing the keyboard layout on Wayland will actually recommend editing the system configuration files for the keyboard layout. Problem with that is that every time you do an update, what's going to happen is those changes are going to get overwritten. What this allows you to do is create a set of key mappings that are stored in your home directory that then will show up as a additional option in GNOME tweaks that you can actually select and apply those key mappings, and that will basically allow you to toggle them on and off. So there are actually two ways to do this. There's an article here showing a simplified version which uses dconf and xkb options, and you can put in an option for key map in there. But the problem with this approach is that you can't easily toggle it on and off without changing the dconf settings. So what I'm going to be doing is following this series of articles on whotblogspot.com from 2020 about user-specific XKB configuration. And what this will basically allow you to do is have an extra option show up in GNOME tweaks. So what I'm going to do now is come across here, and what I've done is while I'm thinking about it, the reason I got into this is because I have a old MacBook Air laptop, 2011 11-inch. I couldn't find a better picture, but basically the keyboard layout is function key, Control, Alt, and Command. So what I wanted to be able to do was actually change the keyboard layout from Control, Alt, Command. So Command will be the super key, the Windows key, to Alt, Super, and Control. And there isn't actually a way to do that in the GNOME tweaks settings. So what I'm going to do is actually play you a video I recorded on the MacBook Air showing the keyboard XEV event, basically. So let me just fire this up and it will make more sense as I go along. Okay, so first of all, what I'm going to do here is open up XEV, and what you'll see down here in the bottom of the window is when I press a key, you'll see the keyboard layout. So let me just sort of advance this on a bit. So I'm pressing the key, so it would be Alt L followed by Super. Sorry about this video. Didn't quite catch it, but it's basically I'm showing the XEV events not very well because I was capturing it on an old laptop. So here what I'm doing is I'm coming into additional layout options, and what you see as I scroll down, I now have this new section here, custom options. Okay, and this is my new custom option that I've created that now shows up in GNOME tweaks. What this does is this maps control to alt, alt to win, and win to control. So what I can do is just enable that checkbox. Okay, close tweaks and run XEV again, and hopefully you'll be able to see here. Alt L, Super L, and Control L. So You can catch that down here. Alt L, Super L, Control L. So I've remapped the keys just by using gnome tweaks with a custom setup. So what I'm doing now is showing you the XKB layout in .config XKB. What we have is these folders. Compat is empty, key codes is empty. And in rules, we have two files. We have evdev and evdev.xml. So in evdev, what we have here is custom alt_win_control, which is the name of the key binding setup I've created, and we do plus custom alt_win control, and then in the bottom we do include evdev, and what this does is this includes the system evdev, I think, or it might include this one. And we in this evdev.xml file we have the name, short description, another description, and down here we actually have the custom options, and that's the thing that comes up in tweaks. And then we have the thing that comes up, custom alt_win control, and then the description that shows up in tweaks. Okay. And in types there's nothing, but in symbols we've got two files. We've got custom and we've got GB. So this is the XKB symbols, alt_win_control. And as you can see here, we've got at the bottom bit's commented out, but we've got the keys here that we're remapping. So let me just delete that unused bit. So you can see those are the actual keys that we're remapping. And in the GB, what I'm doing is redefining alt_win control. We include Macintosh vendor GB. I'll show you where that is in a sec. And then we have the name, the group. It's called alt_win control-Mac. And then we put in those same keys. So now if I open up tweaks again, come into keyboard and mouse, additional layout options. You see we got the custom options that we defined and the new key bindings with the description. So what I'll do now is show you the actual location of the files. So it's user share x11 XKB. And note the layout, compact, geometry, key codes, rules, symbols, types. Now if I list .config XKB, you'll see we've got the same layout, pretty much. So that's the video on the whatchamacallit, the MacBook Air. So let me just shift back to this section here. So basically a recap is what we do is I'll make this bigger so you can see it a bit better. Okay. So first of all, the first step is we need to create the XKB directory and config. So we run mkdir-p, basically means create the directories if they don't exist, tilde /.config, so that's our home directory .config, XKB. In this section you can see down here highlighted what this does is this creates these folders all in one, so it creates symbols, rules, compact, key codes and types. And this is the config that I've got set up in .config XKB symbols custom, where we have this thing called XKB symbols and we give it a name. So this is alt_win control. Then we've got the keys. So left alt is going to be super L, left win control L, and left control is going to be alt and meta. Then we've got the rules. .config XKB rules evdev and symbols, and again we've got this custom alt_win control equals plus custom alt_win control, include the evdev rules. Then we've got the evdev, and what you got here is the actual name, the short description, the description. So this is the country code here, so GB for UK. And what we got down here is this is the section that actually shows up in GNOME Tweaks. When you open GNOME Tweaks, at the bottom you have this new section called Custom Options. This is what creates it. This is create. So what this evdev.xml file is doing is it's creating a custom entry that will show up in GNOME Tweaks and allow you to toggle these settings on and off. So again, you've got that's the menu entry, then you've got the name, and then you've got the description. So that's basically the gist of it. And these are links to the article. So this is whot.blogspot.com, and this goes through the actual how this all works basically, and gives you sort of some examples. In this evdev.xml file, they're using an example name of banana. So you know, if you're following this article, you probably don't want to use the name banana, so you might want to change that to something more descriptive. So there's three pages here, and this is the final one, putting it all together. And what this does is this shows you the directory structure that's needed in your .config xkb directory. And again, we've got the compacts, the key codes. So these are empty directories, these one here. So we've got compacts, key codes, and types, which are empty. But in the rules directory, we've got evdev and evdev.xml. And then the symbols, we've got custom, and then another file which corresponds to a country code. And further down here, it actually gives you the same sort of thing that I was actually showing you how to do. And what you can actually do is you can either create individual entries, so you can create multiple entries, or you can group them all together. So for example, in my one here, what I'm doing is I'm swapping 3 keys. So I've defined a group that will swap all 3 keys, but you can also create multiple entries to swap multiple key sets. So you can create lots of different groups of things to swap around, and they will then show up as entries in GNOME Tweaks that you can select and apply. So have a read through these articles, and that will give you the sort of gist of how this all works. But this is really useful because was it Xmod map? So yeah, you've got 2 tools you can actually use typically on Xorg, set XKB map and Xmod map, I think it is, and they're used to change the layout of your keyboard. But Xmod map's not going to work on Wayland. The hint is in the name of the applications. They start with an X, so Xorg, you know. And I thought that set XKB map didn't work because I've got scripts that I typically use like on Xmonad or something to change the keyboard layout, and they use the display variable, which obviously doesn't apply to Wayland. But turns out you can use XKB configuration options in GNOME and Wayland without having to edit the system files and have your changes overwritten every time you do an update. And the really neat thing about this is that, as I said, it's in your home directory, so you can put all this under Git. So you have all your custom setup in your .config xkb directory. You can create multiple mappings, and then they'll just show up in GNOME Tweaks, and you can toggle them on and off just by clicking the checkbox. So once you get it set up, it's really convenient to use. It does take a little while to get your head around some of the options, but basically the symbols custom is where, because you've got to put this chunk of code in 2 places. So we put it in the custom, but we're also putting it in another one, weren't we? The GB one. I've got the GB one listed here. I thought let me just check, because let me just come back here and open up. I've got the directory on the desktop. Okay. So again, these two directories are empty. I'm going to put this full screen. So compact, key codes, and types are empty. And in rules, got evdev. And I thought you had to put this in twice somewhere. Ah, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I haven't put that in the notes. So we've got custom. Yeah. And then the other option is GB here. So we've got the same thing. We've got the same bit of code. So again, let me just take you through. So we've got, in the symbols, we've got custom. And this is where you give the name to the key binding group, as it were. And these are the keys you put in to swap stuff around. And then in the other file, which is GB in my case, what I'm doing is including Macintosh vendor GB. So that would be ls user share x11 x11 xkb. I forget exactly. It should be, is it symbols? Macintosh vendor, yeah, okay. So as you can see, user share x11 xkb symbols Macintosh vendor. So this include Macintosh vendor, that corresponds to this directory here, and in there you will see GB. So you'll see all the country codes listed here. So what I did was less GB. So if you look at this layout here, what I've done is I've looked at the layout here, and the GB one, what it does is it includes the US version, but it's got a group down here where it actually changes the keys. So what I've done in this one here is I've said include vendor GB, yeah, and what it's doing is it's then injecting sort of this layout. Once we select that layout and tweak tool, in gnome tweak, it's kind of adding it to the evdev file that the system uses for the keyboard layout, if that makes sense. Because basically what there is there's a default evdev.xml file in the system. What a lot of people do is they'll tell you to edit that and add stuff into there, but when you do an update, it's going to overwrite the changes. So what we're doing here is we're creating a custom user specific thing that's going to, once we enable it in tweak tool, it's going to get injected, added to the system evdev file basically, and so it's going to take effect system wide. So that's where the sort of files are stored, and that's how I sort of took this one. Obviously I didn't include the US vendor, I wanted the GB, so I'm including this GB one here, which has got these changes, and what I'm doing is I'm adding these ones to it. Oh, didn't mean to do that, hang on. Hang on, where's my Emacs gone? Hang on a sec. There we go. Right, so we resize this. What about this? Oh, you bugger. Right, there we go. So that's those two files, the GB and the custom, and again the rules files there. So that's the sort of layout you have. And again, once you do that, I haven't obviously got it set up on this machine because it's not a MacBook Air, but when you open tweaks, okay, you've got tweaks here, keyboard and mouse, additional options. You can see here on this machine, I don't have the custom options because I haven't got the XKB directory in my home. But again, just to show you on the laptop video, You can see Alt L, Super L, and should be Control L, okay. And once I change it, come down to custom options. Then you can see here the description. Enable that. Go out gnome tweaks, and then run xev again. You'll see now at the bottom of the screen, Alt L, Super L, Control L. Wait, it should do it again. Alt L, Super L, Control L. So that's the gist of how you can remap your keys on Wayland. You can use XKB commands, and again, have a look through these articles. Read up on sort of the structure and how you do this, but hopefully this will give you a bit of nudge in the right direction how you can get this to work. And again, this was basically so that I could change the layout from was it Control Alt Super key, yeah, to Alt Super Control. Because if you've got Control here, it's really difficult on Linux to copy and paste with Control C and Control V. That's why you typically switch the Control key with whatever's over here. And then I wanted the Super key to be the middle key so that I could use it for keyboard shortcuts rather than this key down here. So that's why I've got Alt Super Control instead of Control Alt Super. So that's how we remapped it. I'll put links to all this under the video, and I'll make sure to include that GB file as well in these notes. But it doesn't take long to do. And again, once you've got it set up, you can just enable it with Tweak Tool, and it will affect all the applications on your system, because it's basically adding it. It's adding your custom settings when you enable it with Tweak Tool to the it's adding it to the system evdev file and all the settings there. And again, the advantage of this is that it's not going to get overwritten when you do an update. So you edit the system files, you do an update for XKB or something, it's going to wipe out the changes you've made, and you're going to have to reapply them, and that's really irritating. So this method is much better. And again, there is a simpler method that uses okay, where is it down here? Yeah, there's a section right down here, I think. Yeah, this is basically, you can do the same thing without Tweak Tool, and that means you don't create the evdev file and another one of the files, and you can apply the changes. You can apply the custom XKB options using dconf or G settings, and in org.gnome input sources XKB options, what you can do is put custom and then the name of the group that you've created. And once you've done that, the changes will be applied. But then if you want to disable them, you've got to go back into gnome tweaks, into dconf editor, or use G settings to disable them, basically. So that's a bit of a pain. So it's not quite as user friendly. It doesn't show up in any menus or anything like that. But if you don't want to go through the full setup of creating the evdev.xml file and some other stuff, this is a quick and dirty way to do it. But again, you've got to use G settings or dconf, whereas the more advanced option, which takes a little bit longer, doesn't really take that much longer. It's just you've got to change the name here. So in this example, it's like banana, whereas you can see in my one, it's set to like description Alt Win Control. So that's the only other thing. You've got to go through a couple of steps to create the evdev.xml file, which creates the menu entries that show up in GNOME tweaks. But once you've done that, you can basically toggle it on and off. And again, this is all going to be stored in your home directory, so you can put it under Git as well. So I put links to all this under the video and hope that helps out.